People say first impressions matter. Sometimes they are right. Sometimes they destroy a person's life. My name is Adrian Brooks, and 5 years ago, I believed the people closest to me more than I believed the woman I had promised to love forever. If you had asked my family about my wife back then, they would all have said the same thing. Vanessa is cold. She only cares about money. She thinks she's better than everyone. That woman will ruin your life. At first, I laughed those comments away. I had met Vanessa Carter during a business seminar in Chicago. She wasn't loud or funny like most people. She spoke carefully, thought before answering, and never tried to impress anyone. While others talked about expensive cars and fancy vacations, Vanessa talked about solving problems, building good teams, and keeping promises. Welcome to a new video. I hope you'll enjoy the story. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks. Now let's get back to the story. That was what caught my attention. She didn't chase attention. She earned respect. We dated for almost 2 years before getting married. During that time, I never saw the selfish person my family described. Instead, I saw someone who worked late, remembered birthdays, quietly paid hospital bills for an elderly neighbor, and never told anyone she had done it. But my family only saw something else. They saw her quietness as pride. They saw her confidence as arrogance. They saw her success as a threat. The trouble truly began after my father retired from running our family's construction company. My older brother, Nathan, believed he should take over because he had worked there longer. I became operations manager. My younger sister, Emily, handled marketing. Family dinners slowly stopped feeling like family dinners. Every conversation somehow turned into business. Vanessa almost never joined those discussions. She would smile politely, help my mother clean the table, then excuse herself. You see, Nathan would whisper after she walked away. She thinks we're beneath her. I frowned. She just doesn't like arguing. That's what she wants you to believe. Little comments like that happened every week. At first, they seemed harmless. Then they started growing. One Sunday afternoon, my mother placed a pie on the dining table and sighed dramatically. I suppose Vanessa won't eat this either. I looked up. What do you mean? Last week she said she wasn't hungry. Vanessa smiled gently. I had a stomachache. My mother shrugged. Or maybe our food isn't good enough. The room became awkwardly quiet. Vanessa didn't argue. She simply thanked my mother for cooking and took a small slice. After we got into the car, I asked, "Why don't you defend yourself?" She stared through the window. Because people who already decided who you are rarely listen. I remember gripping the steering wheel tighter. You should at least explain. I've tried. When? She gave me a tired smile. Not everything happens in front of you. Her answer stayed in my mind for days. Still, whenever I asked my family, they insisted she was imagining things. She's manipulating you, Nathan warned. She wants you isolated, my mother added. Even my father, who usually stayed quiet, finally spoke. Son, a marriage shouldn't separate you from your own family. That sentence hurt. Because it sounded true. I had been visiting less often. But not because Vanessa stopped me. Because every visit ended with someone criticizing her. Instead of noticing that, I blamed the distance on her. Looking back now, I wish I had paid attention to the little details. Like how Vanessa always greeted everyone warmly, even after they ignored her. Like how she still bought birthday gifts for people who never thanked her. Like how she kept telling me, "They're your family. Don't choose between us." Those aren't the words of someone trying to steal a husband away. But I didn't see it then. One rainy evening, I came home earlier than usual. Vanessa sat at the kitchen table with her laptop closed. She wasn't working. She was simply staring at an old photograph. It was from our wedding day. She quickly slid it into a drawer. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Just tired." "You've seemed tired for months." She hesitated. Then she quietly asked something that caught me completely off guard. "Adrian, if everyone told you that the sky was green, but I kept saying it was blue, would you believe me?" I laughed softly. "What kind of question is that?" She looked down. "Never mind." I walked over and kissed her forehead. "It'll get better." She smiled. But it wasn't the smile I had fallen in love with. It was the smile of someone slowly giving up. The next week, everything changed. Nathan stormed into my office carrying a folder. His face was red with anger. "I didn't want to believe it," he said. "But now I have proof." He threw several printed papers onto my desk. At the top of the first page was Vanessa's name. Below it were numbers, emails, and what looked like private company information. Nathan folded his arms. "I told you she couldn't be trusted." I stared at the papers, my heart pounding. For the first time since our marriage began, a tiny seed of doubt entered my mind. And that single moment would become the beginning of the biggest mistake of my life. I stared at the papers for what felt like forever. The first page showed copies of company reports that only a few managers were allowed to see. The second page listed email addresses from another construction company. The third page had Vanessa's name highlighted in yellow, as if someone wanted to make sure I saw it first. Nathan leaned over my desk. "Well," he asked. "Are you finally ready to admit she's been playing us?" I don't know." He laughed without smiling. "You're still defending her?" "I'm trying to understand." "There's nothing to understand." He tapped the papers with one finger. "Someone leaked our confidential information. These documents were found on a competitor's server. Vanessa's name is all over them." I looked closer. Her name was there. But something felt strange. There was no message from her. No signature. Just her name on printed reports. "Where did these come from?" I asked. "Our IT department." "Who found them?" Nathan crossed his arms. "Does that matter?" "It might." His face tightened for just a second before he answered. "No. The evidence speaks for itself." He picked up his jacket and walked toward the door. "You've always been too trusting, Adrian. Don't let love make you blind." When he left, the office suddenly felt colder. I picked up my phone several times to call Vanessa, but each time I stopped. What if Nathan was right? The thought scared me because I didn't want to believe it. That evening, I drove home more slowly than usual. Rain tapped against the windshield, and every red light gave me more time to think. Vanessa was making soup when I walked into the house. She smiled the moment she saw me. "You're home early." Usually, I would have hugged her. Instead, I stood near the doorway. She noticed immediately. "What happened?" I placed the folder on the kitchen table. "I need you to explain something." She wiped her hands on a towel and opened it. Her smile disappeared. She quietly read every page. Then she closed the folder. "Where did you get this?" "Nathan." She nodded slowly. "I thought so." I frowned. "You knew about this?" "I knew someone was trying to blame me." My heartbeat sped up. "What do you mean?" She pulled out a chair and sat down. 3 weeks ago, I noticed someone had logged into the company database using an old employee account. I mentioned it to your IT manager. You never told me. I wanted facts before I worried you. Did the IT manager investigate? He said he would. She looked directly into my eyes. Did he tell you that part? I couldn't answer. She continued calmly. Adrian, those reports don't prove I leaked anything. They only prove my name appears on documents I helped prepare. Then why would Nathan think? She gently interrupted me. That's the better question. The room became very quiet. I wanted to believe her. But Nathan's voice echoed inside my head. She's manipulating you. Vanessa reached across the table and held my hand. If I've done something wrong, I'll accept the consequences. She paused. But if I haven't? I need you to trust me until the truth comes out. I looked at her fingers wrapped around mine. Then I slowly pulled my hand away. It was only a small movement. But I watched pain flash across her face. Not anger. Not surprise. Just hurt. She stood up and quietly carried our untouched bowls of soup to the sink. Neither of us spoke during dinner. The silence felt heavier than any argument. The next morning, my mother called before I even reached the office. I heard Nathan showed you everything. Yes. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Her voice sounded soft and caring. I know this must be hard. I'm still trying to understand. There isn't much to understand. She sighed. Some people wear masks for years. I rubbed my forehead. Mom. You deserve someone who loves your family. Before I could answer, she added one more sentence. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right one. After hanging up, I stared at my phone. Within an hour, my sister Emily texted me. Nathan was right all along. Please don't ignore this. Then my father sent a shorter message. Come by tonight. We need to talk. By evening, I found myself sitting in my parents' living room. No one smiled. Nathan spread more papers across the coffee table. We hired an outside consultant. He slid another report toward me. This confirms someone accessed sensitive files from Vanessa's office computer. My father folded his hands. Son, we're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to protect you, my mother added. Nathan looked straight at me. If this becomes public, our company could lose millions. And if she's innocent? I asked quietly. Nobody answered. Instead, Nathan asked his own question. If she loved you, why didn't she tell you about the investigation? I opened my mouth. Then closed it again. I didn't know. For the first time, doubt felt heavier than trust. When I returned home that night, I found Vanessa sitting on the porch. She wasn't reading. She wasn't working. She was simply watching the rain fall into the garden. Without turning around, she asked softly. They asked you to leave me, didn't they? I froze. She slowly stood and faced me. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying long before I arrived. I can see it on your face. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. Instead, the words that came out were the ones I regret more than any others. Vanessa, is there anything you're hiding from me? She stared at me for several long seconds. Then she whispered. I was hoping you'd ask me if I was okay. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. She simply walked past me, into the house, and quietly closed the bedroom door behind her. Standing alone on the porch, listening to the rain, I realized something had broken between us. I just didn't know whether it was her trust in me. Or my trust in her. The next morning, the house felt different. Not loud. Not angry. Just empty. Vanessa had already left for work when I came downstairs. A cup of coffee sat on the counter beside a note written in her neat handwriting. Don't forget your meeting at 10. That was all. No argument. No explanation. No mention of the night before. For some reason, that hurt more. At the office, people stopped talking when I walked by. Two managers looked away quickly. Someone whispered my name. News traveled fast. By noon, Nathan called an executive meeting. Everyone sat around a long conference table while a projector showed charts and documents. Nathan stood at the front like a lawyer presenting a case. "We've identified unauthorized access to company files," he announced. "For the safety of the business, we must act immediately." He clicked to the next slide. Vanessa's name appeared again. My stomach tightened. "Are we certain?" one director asked. "The evidence points strongly in that direction," Nathan replied. Point strongly was not the same as certain. I noticed the difference. Apparently, nobody else did. After the meeting, I went straight to the IT department. The manager, a nervous man named Carl, looked surprised to see me. "I have a question," I said. "Did Vanessa report suspicious activity before this investigation began?" His eyes widened slightly. Yes." "When?" "About 3 weeks ago." My heart skipped. "Did you tell Nathan?" Carl hesitated. He already knew. "How?" Carl swallowed hard. "He asked me not to discuss internal investigations." Before I could ask more, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and suddenly looked even more nervous. "I'm sorry, Adrian. I really should take this." The conversation was over. For the first time, a small crack appeared in the story I had been told. That evening, I found Vanessa packing a small suitcase. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm staying at a hotel for a few days." "You don't have to do that." She folded a sweater carefully before answering. "I think we both need space." "Because of the investigation?" She finally looked at me. "No. Because every time you look at me now, you're trying to decide whether I'm a liar." The words hit harder than I expected. "I'm just confused." "I know." Her voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "That's what scares me." She zipped the suitcase and walked toward the door. "Vanessa, wait." She stopped. "Did you leak those files?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she answered quietly, "No." "Can you prove it?" Her shoulders dropped slightly, as if something inside her had finally become too heavy. "Not yet." She left. I stood in the hallway listening to the sound of her car disappearing into the night. 3 days later, my family gathered at my parents' house again. My mother served dinner, but nobody really ate. Nathan placed a legal document beside my plate. "What's this?" I asked. "A recommendation from our attorneys." My father cleared his throat. "They believe it would be wise to separate your personal affairs from Vanessa's while the investigation continues." I stared at the paper. Temporary separation. My mother reached for my hand. "Sweetheart, this doesn't have to be forever." "It's just being careful," Emily added. Everyone sounded so reasonable. That was the problem. Not one person sounded cruel. They sounded concerned. Protective. Loving. And slowly, that made me doubt myself even more. Late that night, I called Vanessa. She answered on the second ring. "Hi. Can we talk?" "Of course." I closed my eyes. "My family thinks we should separate until this is resolved." Silence. Then a very soft question. "What do you think?" I should have said I believe you. I should have said we'll get through this together. Instead, after a long pause, I said, maybe it would help calm things down. On the other end of the phone, I heard a small, shaky breath. Not a cry. Just the sound a person makes when they realize they're losing something important. "I understand," she whispered. "Vanessa. I'm tired, Adrian." Another pause. "I hope one day you find out who was really telling the truth." The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time. Outside, rain began falling again. And for the first time since our wedding, I felt completely alone. The separation lasted only 6 weeks. The divorce happened 3 months later. Looking back now, I still remember every small detail of the day we signed the papers. The courthouse was quiet. No shouting. No angry arguments. Just 2 people sitting across from each other while a judge asked simple questions. Vanessa wore a navy blue suit and tied her hair back neatly. She looked calm, but her eyes told another story. They were the eyes of someone who had spent too many nights without sleep. The judge looked at both of us. "Have you both agreed to this decision?" Vanessa answered first. "Yes." Her voice was steady. When it was my turn, the word wouldn't come out. I looked at her. For a second, I wanted to stand up, tear the papers in half, and tell everyone we were going home together. But then I remembered Nathan's reports. My mother's worried face. My father's silence. Emily's messages. All those voices became louder than my own heart. Yes. The judge nodded. A few signatures later, my marriage was over. As we walked toward the parking lot, Vanessa stopped beside her car. She reached into her purse and handed me a small envelope. "I almost threw this away," she said. "What is it?" "I think you'll understand one day." I looked down at the envelope. There was only one sentence written on it. "For the day you finally ask the right question." Before I could say anything, she opened her car door. "Vanessa." She paused. "I never wanted to fight your family." "I know. I only wanted them to give me a chance." My throat tightened. They believed they were protecting me." She gave a sad smile. "Sometimes people can love you, and still lead you in the wrong direction." Those were the last words she ever spoke to me. She drove away without looking back. I stood there until her car disappeared around the corner. I didn't know it then, but I had just watched the best person in my life leave forever. At first, my family celebrated. Nathan invited everyone to dinner. My mother hugged me tightly. "You'll heal," she promised. "You did the right thing," Emily said. Even my father patted my shoulder. "I'm proud you made the difficult choice." I wanted to feel relieved. Instead, I felt strangely empty. The house I had once shared with Vanessa became painfully quiet. Her favorite coffee mug still sat in the cabinet. One of her novels remained on the nightstand. A small green plant she had cared for every morning slowly began to wilt because I kept forgetting to water it. One evening, I found one of her sweaters hanging in the closet. Without thinking, I held it in my hands. It still smelled faintly like her perfume. For the first time since the divorce, I cried. Not because I missed having a wife. Because I missed having her. Months passed. The investigation inside our company quietly disappeared. No one was charged. No one apologized. Nathan simply announced during a staff meeting, "The security issue has been resolved." That was all. I raised my hand. "So, who leaked the files?" Nathan shrugged. "We may never know." I stared at him. But everyone blamed Vanessa. He looked directly at me. We acted on the information we had. The meeting moved on. Everyone accepted that answer. Everyone except me. Questions began filling my mind. If Vanessa had done it, why has there never been proof? Why had the investigation ended without any announcement? Why had no police report ever been filed? The more I thought about it, the less everything made sense. Almost a year after the divorce, another surprise came. Nathan became the new CEO of our family company. During his speech, everyone applauded. He smiled proudly. "This is the beginning of a stronger future." I clapped politely. But something about him had changed. He had become more controlling. Managers who disagreed with him quietly disappeared. Old employees resigned one after another. Several long-time clients stopped returning our calls. When I questioned some of his decisions, he dismissed me. "You worry too much." One afternoon, I walked past his office and heard him arguing on the phone. "I don't care how you hide it," he snapped. "Just make sure nobody traces it back." The room fell silent. A second later, his office door opened. Nathan smiled the moment he saw me. "Adrian." His voice suddenly sounded cheerful. "Need something?" For a moment, I almost asked about the phone call. Instead, I simply shook my head. "No." As I walked away, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my stomach. That night, I returned home and opened the envelope Vanessa had given me after the divorce. Inside was only a single photograph. It showed the entire executive team at our company during last year's annual conference. At first, I didn't understand why she had kept it. Then I noticed something strange. Standing near the back of the room was Carl, the IT manager. Next to him stood Nathan. They were smiling, while quietly exchanging a small flash drive. On the back of the photograph, Vanessa had written just one sentence in blue ink. "Don't ask who they blamed. Ask who benefited." I read the sentence again. Then again. For the first time in nearly a year, I wasn't asking whether Vanessa had betrayed us. I was asking whether someone had betrayed me, her. I barely slept that night. The photograph lay on my kitchen table beside the empty envelope. I kept staring at the tiny flash drive in Nathan's hand. Maybe it meant nothing. Or maybe it meant everything. The next morning, I drove to the office earlier than usual. Most employees had not arrived yet. Carl, the IT manager, was unlocking his office when he saw me. "Good morning," he said nervously. "Can we talk?" His smile faded. "Sure." I closed the door behind us and placed the photograph on his desk. His face immediately lost its color. "Where did you get this?" "So you remember that day?" Carl looked away. "It was just a conference." "Then why do you look scared?" He didn't answer. I leaned forward. "Carl, did Vanessa really leak those files?" His hands trembled slightly. "I can't discuss company matters. Not even after my marriage ended because of them." He swallowed hard. I don't know what you're talking about." I picked up the photograph. "Look at me." Slowly, he did. "One question. Did Vanessa report suspicious activity before anyone accused her?" Carl nodded without thinking. The moment he realized what he had done, he covered his mouth. The room fell silent. "So she told the truth," I whispered. Carl closed his eyes. "I shouldn't have said anything." "You already did." He stood and walked to the window. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." For nearly a minute, he said nothing. Finally, he spoke so quietly I almost couldn't hear him. "I was told to stay silent." "By who?" He turned around. His eyes were full of fear. "If I answer that, I'll lose my job." I didn't need him to say the name. I already knew. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention to Nathan. Things I had ignored before suddenly stood out. He approved expensive contracts without asking questions. He met privately with suppliers and refused to explain why. He often asked employees to delete emails after reading them. Whenever someone questioned him, he smiled and changed the subject. One afternoon, I found old financial records stored in a forgotten filing room. Several reports were missing. The dates matched the same weeks when Vanessa had been accused. That couldn't be a coincidence. I copied the file numbers into my notebook. As I turned to leave, I heard footsteps. Nathan stood in the doorway. "What are you doing here?" "I was looking for old project files." His eyes dropped to the notebook in my hand. "You've become very curious lately." "I just want answers." He stepped closer. "Sometimes answers create more problems." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The warning was clear. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in almost 5 years. I searched for Vanessa online. At first, I found almost nothing. She had always stayed away from social media. Then I found a short business article from 2 years earlier. There was a small photograph beside it. Vanessa looked different. More confident. The headline read, "Senior executive leads major company expansion." I smiled without meaning to. She had kept moving forward, while I had spent years looking backward. I wanted to call her. To apologize. To explain. But what would I say? "I'm sorry, I believed everyone except you." Some mistakes cannot be fixed with a phone call. A week later, I visited an elderly retired accountant named Harold, who had worked for our family company for over 30 years. He welcomed me warmly. "I haven't seen you in ages." We sat on his front porch with cups of tea. After a while, I asked quietly, "Do you remember the investigation involving Vanessa?" Harold became unusually serious. "I remember." "Did you ever think she was guilty?" He shook his head immediately. "Not for 1 second." I stared at him. "Why didn't you say anything?" He sighed deeply. "Because nobody wanted to listen." "What do you mean?" "I reviewed some financial records before I retired." He looked around to make sure no neighbors were nearby. The numbers didn't make sense. "What numbers?" "Money was disappearing long before Vanessa was blamed." My heart began pounding. "Did you tell anyone?" "I told your father." "What did he say?" Harold looked down into his tea. "He said Nathan had already explained everything." I frowned. "Explained what?" "That the accounting mistakes were unrelated." Harold slowly shook his head. "I never believed that." He looked straight at me. "Your ex-wife wasn't asking the wrong questions. She was asking the right ones." Those words hit me like a heavy weight. Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle started fitting together. Vanessa noticed suspicious activity. She reported it. Weeks later, she became the suspect. Not because she caused the problem, but because she came too close to discovering it. That night, I drove home through heavy rain. For years, I had believed I was the victim. Now, for the first time, I saw the truth. The real victim had been Vanessa. She had lost her marriage, her family, her reputation, and the one person who should have stood beside her. Me. I pulled my car to the side of the road. The rain hammered against the windshield as I buried my face in my hands. "I am so sorry," I whispered into the empty car. But the only answer was the sound of the storm. And somewhere, many miles away, the woman I had failed was living a life without me. Never knowing that I had finally begun asking the right questions. The next morning, I made a decision I should have made 5 years earlier. I was going to find Vanessa. Not because I expected forgiveness. Not because I hoped we could be together again. I simply owed her the truth. I started with the small company mentioned in the old article I had found online. The receptionist answered politely. "I'm sorry," she said. "Ms. Carter hasn't worked here for over a year. Do you know where she went?" "I'm afraid I can't share that information." The call ended. For the next several days, every lead ended the same way. She had moved on. She had been promoted. She had left. It was as if she had quietly climbed every mountain while disappearing from everyone who had once doubted her. Meanwhile, trouble inside our family company was growing worse. Suppliers complained about late payments. Projects fell behind schedule. 2 important clients canceled their contracts in the same month. At a board meeting, Nathan stood confidently in front of everyone. "This is only temporary," he said. "The market is changing." I looked around the room. Most people nodded. But a few directors exchanged worried looks. After the meeting, one of them quietly stopped me in the hallway. His name was Richard, and he had served on the board longer than my father. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did your ex-wife ever warn anyone about financial problems?" The question caught me by surprise. "Why would you ask that?" Richard lowered his voice. "Because I remember her requesting an internal audit shortly before she left." My heart skipped. "An audit?" He nodded. "She believed someone was moving company money through fake consulting contracts." I stared at him. "Did anyone investigate?" Richard gave a bitter smile. "The request disappeared." "Disappeared?" "It never reached the full board." I already knew who could have stopped it. Nathan. The realization made my stomach turn. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. My father was watering flowers in the front yard. He smiled when he saw me. "You came at a good time. I need to ask you something." His smile slowly faded. "What is it?" "Did Vanessa ask for an internal audit before the divorce?" "The watering can stop pouring." He didn't answer immediately. Finally, he nodded. "Yes. You knew." "I did. Why didn't you tell me?" He looked away. Nathan explained that she was creating unnecessary problems. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you trusted him?" "I trusted my son." "You had another son standing right in front of you." The words came out sharper than I intended. My father looked older than I had ever seen him. I thought I was protecting the family. I shook my head. "No. You were protecting one person." His shoulders slumped. For the first time in years, I saw regret in his eyes. 3 days later, everything changed. I was eating lunch alone when my phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Fortune 50 company announces new global chief executive officer. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the photograph. The fork slipped from my hand and clattered onto the plate. There she was. Vanessa. Standing on a stage in a dark business suit, smiling as cameras flashed around her. The headline continued. Vanessa Carter appointed CEO following record-breaking international growth. I read it twice. Then a third time. The woman my family had called cold. The woman they had treated like an outsider. The woman they believed was selfish. Had just become the leader of one of the largest companies in the country. My hands began shaking. A second article described her as calm, honest, and respected by employees around the world. Another praised her ability to solve difficult business problems with fairness and patience. Those words sounded painfully familiar. That was exactly the woman I had married. She had never changed. Only my opinion of her had. The news spread quickly through our office. Employees gathered around computer screens. Nathan walked past them, pretending not to care. "Good for her," he said with a shrug. But I noticed his jaw tighten. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Later that afternoon, I entered his office without knocking. He looked up from his desk. "What do you want?" I placed the newspaper in front of him. He glanced at Vanessa's picture. So you were wrong." His expression hardened. "You still don't understand." "No," I replied quietly. "I finally do." I leaned closer. She wasn't the problem. For a brief moment, Nathan's calm mask slipped. You should stop digging into the past. Why? Because some things are better left buried. I held his gaze. Only if you're the one who buried them. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavier than any argument we had ever had. As I turned to leave, Nathan called after me. If you keep asking questions. I stopped at the door. You won't like the answers. I walked out without looking back. But deep inside, I knew something important. Nathan wasn't warning me anymore. He was afraid. And for the first time in 5 years. The truth was finally beginning to frighten the people who had hidden it. Nathan's warning stayed in my mind all night. If you keep asking questions, you won't like the answers. 5 years ago, those words would have frightened me enough to stop. Not anymore. I had already lost the person who mattered most. The next morning, I requested an emergency meeting with the company's board of directors. Nathan looked annoyed the moment everyone sat down. What is this about, Adrian? I stood and placed several folders on the conference table. I've spent the last few months reviewing records connected to the investigation that destroyed my marriage. Nathan leaned back in his chair. That matter is closed. No, I replied calmly. It was buried. The room became silent. I handed copies of old financial records to each board member. These payments were approved during the same weeks Vanessa requested an internal audit. Several directors began reading. Richard adjusted his glasses. These consulting companies. They don't exist anymore, I said. In fact, 2 of them never existed at all. Nathan suddenly stood. This is ridiculous. I continued speaking. The money didn't disappear after Vanessa left. I pointed to another page. It kept disappearing for almost 2 more years. Now everyone was looking at Nathan. His confident smile had vanished. Richard slowly looked up. Nathan. Can you explain these payments? They were authorized business expenses. Then where are the contracts? Nathan hesitated. I'll have accounting provide them. I quietly slid one final document across the table. They already tried. The room fell completely still. There are no contracts. For nearly 10 seconds, nobody spoke. Then Richard closed the folder. I believe we need an independent forensic audit immediately. Several directors nodded. Nathan looked around the room. You can't seriously believe this. One by one, the board members raised their hands in support of the audit. Not a single hand supported Nathan. For the first time in my life. My older brother looked completely alone. The investigation moved quickly. Unlike 5 years earlier, nobody was allowed to control the evidence. Outside auditors reviewed thousands of emails, payment records, and computer files. Within 3 weeks, the truth finally surfaced. Nathan had created fake consulting companies. Money had been quietly transferred through them for years. When Vanessa noticed unusual transactions and requested an internal audit, he panicked. Instead of answering her questions, he created another story. Using Carl's access to the computer system, Vanessa's name was attached to copied documents to make her appear suspicious. The company never found proof against her. Because there had never been any. The accusations had only been strong enough to make everyone doubt her. Especially me. Carl eventually admitted everything. With tears in his eyes, he confessed that Nathan had threatened his career if he refused to cooperate. I knew she was innocent, Carl said during the investigation. I was too afraid to tell the truth. Those words spread through the company. Then through the business community. Finally. Through my own family. My mother came to my house one evening carrying an old photo album. The moment I opened the door, I noticed she had been crying. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't answer. She held out the album. I found these while cleaning. Inside were photographs from my wedding. Vanessa was smiling in every picture. Helping guests. Laughing with children. Serving cake before taking a slice for herself. My mother wiped away another tear. I kept saying she thought she was too good for us. She pointed at one photograph. I never noticed she was always helping everyone. Neither had I. My father arrived a few minutes later. He looked smaller than I remembered. I failed both of you. His voice broke. I should have listened instead of choosing the easiest answer. I nodded slowly. You should have. No one argued. Some mistakes leave no defense. A month later, Nathan resigned before the board officially removed him. Soon afterward, investigators filed financial fraud charges against him. His reputation collapsed almost overnight. The people who had once praised his leadership quietly disappeared. Justice had arrived. Not through revenge, but through truth. Still, none of it repaired what had been broken. One autumn afternoon, I stood outside the towering headquarters of the Fortune 50 company Vanessa now led. Employees hurried through the glass entrance carrying laptops and coffee cups. Everyone smiled when they spoke about their CEO. She's fair. She listens. She remembers everyone's name. The receptionist looked up politely. May I help you? My name is Adrian Brooks. She searched her computer. Do you have an appointment with Ms. Carter? No. I'm sorry. Her schedule is full for the next several weeks. I nodded. I understand. Before leaving, I handed her a sealed envelope. If she ever has time. The receptionist accepted it. I'll make sure she receives it. I thanked her and walked outside. Across the street, I turned back one last time. High above, sunlight reflected from the top floor windows. Somewhere inside that building was the woman I had once promised never to leave. The woman who had lost everything because I had trusted fear more than truth. I didn't know whether she would ever read my letter. I didn't know whether she would ever forgive me. But for the first time in 5 years, she finally had something she had deserved all along. The truth. And as I walked away, I understood the hardest lesson of my life. A lie can destroy a family in a single day. But the truth, sometimes it takes years to find its way home. Before you go, think about this. If the person you loved the most stopped believing in you because of someone else's lies, could you ever forgive them? And if you discovered years later that the person you pushed away was innocent all along, would you have the courage to ask for forgiveness, even if it was too late? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story or perspective might help someone who's going through the same kind of heartbreak. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful family drama stories every week. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, trust can be broken in a moment, but the truth always finds its way to the light. Thank you for watching the video completely.